wind technologies that are generating record quantities of clean, affordable, American-made energy. And at a groundbreaking ceremony for Array Technologies at their factory in Albuquerque, I met with over a dozen New Mexicans, and they told me about the impact of our investments on their lives, their ability to support their families. I talked with folks like Ramon Romero, who joined Array Technologies as an entry-level machinist, worked his way up to become, to have a career as a production manager. I met with Daniel Beltran, who explained how Array's expansion has created new job opportunities for himself and many others in his community. He told me that the company's growth has been life-changing for him. And I met with Ray Mudaluri, who spoke about how significant a role Array has played in supporting her growth as a young professional and her ability to serve her community. Here's what every one of those New Mexicans had in common. They were able to create better lives for themselves, better lives for their families, because of the jobs that were available for them. This is what I mean when I say these industries, these clean industries, are creating careers that New Mexicans and other Americans can build their families around in their home communities. And thanks to the investments that Democrats made in the last few years, we have seen record growth in new American manufacturing facilities. More than 400,000 new jobs have been announced across the country as part of this Made in America clean and affordable energy manufacturing boom. In New Mexico, we celebrated the first wind towers coming off the line at Arcosa Wind Towers, a new factory in Belen. It was a shuttered plastics factory. And now Arcosa's workers are creating the huge steel towers. They're heading straight to the SunZia Wind and Transmission Project, a 3.5 gigawatt project. That project, SunZia, brought in more than $20 billion to states like New Mexico and Arizona in capital. And when it comes online, it's going to generate more clean power with its wind turbines than the Hoover Dam. It is the largest ever built clean energy project in the Western Hemisphere. America is actually building big things again. So these projects have enormous scope, but our affordable, American-made energy boom is already under threat because of the uncertainty that President Trump has foisted on the energy sector. And if you're thinking about opening a new factory like Array or Arcosa did in my state, you don't know what your tax structure will be after the Republicans take up their Trump tax bill. If you're trying to site and build a new transmission line, the federal agencies and the staff that you work with just had their expert staff sacked, making it hard to get a permit when no one's on the other end of the phone. And thanks to Trump's so-called national energy emergency, many of the lowest cost, 100% clean additions to our grid can't get permits. Make no mistake, Americans' electric bills are going to go up. I'm going to say that again. Americans' electric bills are going to go up because Trump and his loyal Republicans are picking winners and losers on the power grid. That's why I'm joining my friend and colleague Senator Kaine to force a vote to put an end to all of this before any more damage is done. And I want to be clear about something, and certainly Senator Kaine raised this point, but America is the world's leading energy producer. And before Trump injected all of this uncertainty, our country was producing record quantities of both conventional and clean advanced energy. There is no energy emergency. It was made up to skirt the law. It was made up to favor some sources and not others. But if Trump gets his way, his faux declaration may very well create a real emergency, an energy emergency and an economic emergency. I also want to be clear to my colleagues across the aisle that this clean energy phenomenon has created 400,000 jobs around the country, but most of them are in Republican-led states. This is not a red states or blue states issue. This is about good-paying, blue-collar, skilled jobs in all of our states. So what's at risk because of all of this? Let's take a look. In North Carolina, there is a new nearly $13 billion Toyota battery plant, which will employ 5,000 workers. Where are we getting our batteries now? We're getting them from China. This is progress. This is putting Americans to work to make batteries here. In Louisiana, First Solar announced $1 billion for a new solar energy project that is projected to create 700 new jobs, making that technology here, not being dependent on China. In Kentucky, Ford is building a new battery plant which will employ another 5,000 workers and manufacturing batteries here instead of China. In Georgia, an estimated $1 billion in projects to modernize the power grid. And our power grid needs a heck of a lot of modernization. We're going to have more and more demands on this grid in coming years, especially with the growth of data centers and AI. $1 billion sidelined to upgrade that power grid in Georgia. Do we really want all these jobs to disappear because President Trump wants to create a war on affordable American-made clean energy? Do we want to import more batteries from China? I don't, because that's what's going to happen if we turn our backs on these factories and these energy sources. And among other things, Trump's so-called national energy emergency declaration would allow his administration to use eminent domain, one of the most controversial powers that a government can have, to take private land for oil and gas infrastructure at the expense of our American jobs and livelihoods. As we speak, President Trump's chaos and incompetence are jeopardizing and fueling the real energy emergency in our country. Trump's plans to eliminate dozens of advanced energy tax credits. Those have unleashed more than $165 billion in private sector capital, moving into over 1,000 factories and expansions across the country. The president has also halted many of the Department of Energy's loan guarantees, which will further jeopardize the U.S. energy manufacturing expansion and will lead to higher energy bills for millions of Americans. This is blatant hypocrisy, as Trump's favorite billionaire bro, Elon Musk, actually took a $465 million federal loan guarantee from that same department that literally saved Tesla from bankruptcy in 2010. And when these massive multi-billion-dollar construction projects stall, it's not Trump's billionaire friends who will suffer. It is everyday Americans who work in these factories. It's all the families who will be stuck with higher electric bills. And I want to emphasize something that my colleague from Virginia raised. More than 90% of the electricity generation projects currently in line to connect to the grid all across this nation, in red states and in blue states, waiting interconnection, are clean energy projects. They are wind, solar, storage, nuclear. Just last year, 93% of new electric generation was carbon-free. That is a record. We added 52 gigawatts, 50 nuclear power generating station quantities worth of solar, wind, and storage to the grid in the last year alone. And there's a reason for that. In addition to being clean and carbon-free, and many of the big companies that procure energy care about that, these power sources are cheaper, they're faster, they're less capital intensive than older technologies like coal-fired plants or gas turbines. Put simply, clean energy is the cheapest electricity on the grid. You can see it right here. Onshore wind and solar, by far the cheapest. We got combined cycle natural gas, but guess what? You can't get a gas turbine these days. If you order a combined cycle natural gas turbine today, you're going to wait 3, 4, 5 years before that's actually delivered without permitting. Nuclear is great. I hope we build more of it, but we've got to get the cost down. It's 18 cents a kilowatt hour, average. So if we don't plug these clean sources into the grid, especially in a time of surging demand, the outcome is obvious. Prices will go up. And it's not physically possible to stand up enough costly gas plants to keep growing our power demands and keep prices down. As I said, the wait times to just get a turbine is 4 or 5 years. If Trump has his way and keeps blocking American-made clean energy projects, we know that significantly higher energy and electricity costs are on the way. Is that what we want to do? Is it really we want to impose on working families that are already struggling to pay for eggs, or if they haven't crossed that off their grocery list already, the rising cost of milk, groceries going through the roof, rent payments going up, and we're going to increase their electric rates? Because that's what this fake emergency is going to do. You know, a couple of weeks ago, an Alabama utility company sent a letter to customers saying, sorry, you owe us another $100 because what we credited you based on the law is no longer valid. Trump's EO took that away. So pony up, write us another $100 in your electric bill this month. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. You know, advanced groups who do the analysis, folks like the Rhodium Group, have looked at what his crusade will mean regarding American clean energy investments and electricity costs. And they say that on average, Americans' families' electricity bills could go up by nearly $500 a year as a result of these actions. Trump's war on American-made clean energy is going to kill thousands of jobs in the skilled trades. Huge construction projects are going to get stalled. The biggest winner in all of this is going to be China. China wants to become even more dominant in the global renewable energy marketplace. They will happily take the private investment that could have gone to the United States and take those jobs back overseas. The biggest loser from this is our economic competitiveness, our national security, our families. Trump has claimed that his so-called national energy emergency order is needed to unleash more American fossil fuel development. He's also wrong about that. Not only is our production 13 million barrels a day on average, a little over that, is not only that record, is that not a record producing number, but oil and gas executives will tell you the truth. Look at what ConocoPhillips CEO said in response to a question about this. Would he really increase production with the gloves coming off? He said, not really. Why is that? It's because American oil and gas production is already at a record high, and it's not economically advantageous to push production further. I know this firsthand because we're producing more oil and gas in New Mexico than most other states combined, with the exception of one. Clearly, we need to put an end to this stunt that will fuel a real energy emergency, kill thousands of jobs, and raise electricity costs on American families. The most important decision of our energy future, worth hundreds of billions of dollars in private sector investment, factories, thousands of high-quality jobs, remains in the hands of our Senate Republican colleagues. If you want to have an all-of-the-above approach, if you want to continue to bring down energy costs, if you want to protect jobs for hardworking Americans in our states, and to help America remain the global leader in energy production, I would urge you to vote in support of this resolution and against higher electricity bills.
Senator from Virginia.
Mr. President, I rise today in support of my colleagues, Senator Heinrich and Senator Kane's resolution, and I appreciate on the part of their presentations, but I strongly support this resolution and want to also acknowledge one of the many reasons we would vote for this resolution is because it's also Senator Kane's birthday. And I think nothing would be a better birthday present for my friend of 45 years, than having this body make a firm statement about being against rising utility costs.